everybody, this is Maggie. We're going to be talking about your world. This is the first time that we're really exploring where our characters come from and how the world can impact our stories. I'm going to show you how to do a world piece from scratch, what my process is, what I'm thinking about when I'm drawing, and then second, I'm going to give you a recommendation about an exercise that you can do to help improve your skills. Now, this is usually the point in the program where we start getting setup questions about like, what hardware do I have to use? What software do I have to use? Which combination of the two is going to make like the absolute best reel ever? And I can definitively tell you, after spending quite a few years of my life bouncing between different hardware setups and softwares and learning the difference between them all, the definitive answer is none of them. They're all just tools. You can hang a picture frame as effectively with a hammer and nail as you could with a command strip. Maybe you're a student and you're trained on a particular software, or you're new to art entirely and you just need good old-fashioned paper and pencil. Both of those can make super awesome reels. What matters is how you use the tools that are given and if the tools are effective for how you work. So with that in mind, let's go get a drink, do some stretches, and let's go to work. Alright, so I've got my What If promo pulled up here, and this idea is for a druid that has to restore the sun in a world where technology has long fallen out of favor and fallen to the wayside in favor of magic. And there are some ideas here that I really like. I like the idea of a big set piece in the crane. I like the idea of the buried farmhouse and the car. The idea that nature is reclaiming this stuff gradually. But I'm not really sold on a desert wasteland environment anymore. So this is the point where I start gathering my ideas and doing research. So what I've done is I pulled up another document, and I'm using this as a mood board in a sense to just collect ideas to start synthesizing. And I might do literal research to see, as you can see here, I have stuff that's been reclaimed by nature like we were talking about. I might do research on lighting, I might look up how to draw stuff, but I also might start doing thematic research. I really like taking inspiration from video games. I am constantly using screenshot features on my Switch, on my PC, so thinking about, knowing that I want a dramatic atmosphere, I might start looking to other pieces of media that emulate that, and taking research from there as well. One of my favorite games in terms of atmosphere is God of War 2018 for the PS4, so you can see that I've got screenshots of that collected here. I might use photo mode in other games as well to collect ideas. One of my favorite things about Genshin Impact's photo mode is Genshin has these crazy big set pieces, and one of the ones in Sumeru is actually a giant set piece, a robot that has been reclaimed by a mountain and a rainforest, so I definitely went and got pictures of those. Alrighty, so let's say that we're done with our research and we want to get started with drawing. You don't want to dive into necessarily the first idea that you have. So what we're going to do here, and you can see that I've done on the canvas, I've made these little rectangles, and what we're going to do is called thumbnailing. These are just very quick one-off ideas that we're just going to get down on paper just to start formulating ideas, testing different compositions, deciding what we want our viewers' focus to be on. And this is a really great way to do that without committing a lot of your time, a lot of your effort into finding interesting ideas. Alrighty, so coming back around, we have our thumbnails done. As you guys know, I've only done 4 here, but you might do a couple pages of them, maybe you do 1 or 2. But what I'm going to start looking at is the different ideas, and I don't know if you can hear it in the audio, but over the couple of days that I've been filming this, I have kind of gone under the weather a little bit, so I'm not feeling too hot, so with that lack of energy, I do have to make some compromises. Something interesting that I think I could do would be like this large scale tree, like we were talking about, the big set pieces. I would love to do that. However, I'm actually going to take my lasso tool and select this one where my character is very centered in frame, and this is very kind of on brand for me, to be honest, because most of my character work that I do, I am a character artist by nature. All of my characters are always front and center in the frame. I love when stuff is just front and center in frame because it's a very direct way of focusing what our story is about. And I'm just gonna copy, and then I'm going to Velcro it, I'm going to turn off my layer that has my thumbnails on it because this is going to be on a new layer. And I'm going to transform this and scale it up so that it fills a good chunk of my frame. Okay. And then I'm also going to lower the opacity on this because this is just the foundation of an idea, and we're going to flesh this out as we go. Alright, so I was about to start cleaning up my sketch because I felt like I had a pretty good foundation and I was going to start doing line art. However, I came to a bit of a realization. I realized I made a world with no light source, which means there is no color. My character is holding the only light source that would reflect and refract off of things and give it color. So this is actually going to be mostly a black and white painting. So I'm going to treat it as a painting. I'm going to treat it as though I was doing an underpainting. And if you've ever taken a painting class or you've done painting, an underpainting is something you would do either monochromatically, you might use burnt sienna, you might use complementary colors, but the point of it is to give depth or warmth or a pop to your colors, kind of like what you would do with this. So we're gonna try throwing some spaghetti at the wall, and we'll see how it turns out. So knowing what I know now about what my lighting is going to look like, I've gone and grabbed some more reference materials from Horizon Zero Dawn, where we have an outside dark scene. And I've also gone in and grabbed some screen caps from one of my favorite movies, Promare, by Studio Trigger, because it's also got the scene towards the end that also has a very similar lighting setup, where there's this one core lighting point in the scene, and it makes some really interesting shadows. So just pull those for reference. And then some of the brushes that I'm going to be using, because I have a nature scene, you're going to see these folders over here titled DEK and then a subject. These are actually free brush packs from the artist Devin L. Kurtz. You've probably seen her Avatar The Last Airbender fan art. She does crazy amazing paintings, but she makes these free brush packs with an optional tip that are super great resources for anyone using Photoshop, Clip Studio Paint, or Procreate. So the first thing you're going to see me do is I'm going to put together a large tree base and start copying and pasting that. And what I'm just doing here is, to make less work on myself, I'm just kind of Frankensteining different kinds of trees together from this original base. You'll also see me testing up different kinds of brushes here in a second, just to kind of get a feel for what is growing in this area. It's okay to not know exactly what tools you want to take and tackle a project with at first, because that happens sometimes. So we've been working monochromatic so far, but I'm actually about to put down my first splash of color, and I chose a pink fire that my druid is holding, and that wasn't a choice that was made just because I think it looks cool. World building is such a great way to start imparting pieces of yourself into your project, and one thing about me is that I was a very big space kid. Earth's sun is a yellow dwarf star, so the idea of it shrinking down into a red dwarf where it's losing its fuel and its temperature. The thing is that red lighting, I find, tends to be very sinister, but, you know, pink seemed to be kind of the best medium between the literal science and fantasy. Alright, I've got my underpainting just about done, and you can see here that I've not done anything too complex. The only thing I've really put into detail is where the lighting is going to change, so there's not terribly deep shadows, because I'm more concerned about where my light source is coming from. And the important thing when you start to bring your color down over your underpainting is that you want to use a somewhat transparent coat of paint, because we want what's under the main layer to really pop those colors and fill in where they don't, to create that heavy contrast. Doing anything with wood texture is always really daunting for me, because I'm not a person that really loves trying to render texture. But the staff and the trees were a really fun challenge, because I got to use line more to try and emphasize what the textured tree bark would be. You'll also see me here when I'm filling in the leaves here in a second actually throw out a whole layer. Something that's really important to keep in mind, guys, is 100% it is entirely possible that it's just faster and easier to throw something out and start it over. Don't feel like you have to commit to something in that moment and just go with it if it's not making you happy. I think out of everything in this scene, the car is really my favorite element. That was such a fun challenge. We said that we had to make a compromise, like I said, because I was sick, where I really, really wanted a big set piece, but I think the car was a great compromise to have a dilapidated mechanical construct somewhere in the scene. And I just loved that photo that we found in our reference sheet of the tree slowly growing out and around the car's bumper and grate. So I'm really excited that I got to incorporate that in here somehow. Alright, and as I'm wrapping up the painting, all I want to do is fill in some of the empty space here. You can see me adding some bushes. I added a busted up street sign, street lamp, just to kind of enforce that we're in a overgrown urban area. And you can also see me add some foliage that's not too detailed. Our eyes are not 40K. We would not be able to see like individual leaves on that bush in the distance. And also a building to just kind of blur out and again reinforce that we're in an urban environment. Last thing is adding some fog that I saw in some of my God of War and Horizon reference images, just to add a little bit of mood to the scene and sign it off. We're done. Alrighty, and there you have it. Now, it's important to remember you don't always have to take your projects to this point of completion. If you just want to throw some color down under a sketch, that's totally okay, or you can always go back and remember that you can update your projects later. This is actually the first time that I've done something to this level of completion, so it felt really, really good to get this out. Now, before we go, I did promise you guys an exercise that you can do to kind of help with your world building. So let's talk about film studies. Alrighty, so what you're gonna do, you're gonna go grab a screen cap of one of your favorite movies. If you're working digitally, go ahead and pull that into your software. If you're working traditionally, feel free to print it out, have it up on a computer, and go grab some of your favorite tools. So once I've brought my screen cap into Clip Studio Paint, all I'm going to do is just start painting what I see. I love this scene. This is when Charlie and Bumblebee first meet from Travis Knight's Bumblebee 2018. And Charlie's got a very, very cluttered workspace, and I love that because it gives me the opportunity to just make suggestions of stuff that's in the background, and so I can focus on the main characters. It's okay to just, when you have a very cluttered scene, just put down shapes and colors to just give the idea that stuff is in the background. You'll also see me actually trace Bumblebee. Tracing is not a bad thing. Tracing is a tool that you need to learn how to use properly, and to me it was important because I really wanted to break down how Bumblebee is put together in this scene. Now, when I say go grab a screen cap from one of your favorite films, 100% that means you can absolutely go grab something from an animated project. However, something I've noticed when I try to do studies of animated works, you can see I'm doing a Steven Universe background here because I love the scenery in that show. I find that there's a lot of pressure when you're studying something animated
that you feel like you need to recreate it perfectly. And I think when we study live action, we kind of get away from that, because realism is very daunting, and we're not shooting for realism. We just want to understand, break it down, why a scene works, and explore our styles and build our skills that way. Anyways, that's about all the time that we have for now. Thanks for spending part of your day with me. Good luck on your projects. See you next time.